I've been able to break 30 seconds running from New York to Los Angeles, Darkspeed said as he started giving Abad his once for breakfast. Virtuoso ordered next. She kept staring at Darkspeed and thinking, is moving your legs that fast even possible? You ran from one side of North America to the other in less than half a minute? She asked him. Yes, I did. Do you take really long steps? Midas asked. No, I'm just that fast. And when we get started with Academy stuff, I'll show you. Your shoes don't wear out? Asked Virtuoso. Regular ones would. My dad has a friend at the HU who gets special shoes for me. I bet your dad is the one who helped you get your invitation, Midas said. Yeah, I thought of that after what she said, Darkspeed said, pointing to Virtuoso. I just thought he'd tell me if he was talking to someone about me. Virtuoso made a funny face at Midas. It took him a second to take the hint. This is Virtuoso. She's from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Nice to meet you, said Darkspeed. I'm from Salt Lake City. Nice to meet you, she said back. So what are your powers? Darkspeed said to the two at the table. After rehashing of what Midas and Virtuoso already knew, the food that they ordered had arrived. Virtuoso started to dig into her breakfast. She stopped when she saw Darkspeed praying. Midas felt forgetful for not remembering prayer before his meal. Virtuoso simply waited for him to finish before eating. Are you religious? She asked Darkspeed. I am what I was raised to be, he replied. Without even seeing Darkspeed move, his food was gone. He rose from the table and pushed his chair back in. Thanks for answering my questions, I appreciate it, he said and walked away. Virtuoso was still working on her food. That was a little weird, she said. Maybe he doesn't like talking much, Midas said. Maybe he's weird, she said. Maybe he's a loner. Maybe he's a weird loner. Maybe he's misunderstood. Maybe he's a misunderstood weirdo. Maybe he's a butterfly dreaming he's weird, he said. Virtuoso didn't skip a beat and said with a straight face, That kid is one weird butterfly. Midas laughed and took a bite of his food. You lose, she said. I lost what? You didn't keep up with the witty banner, you lose, she said to him. How can I lose if I didn't know we were playing? I've read comic books and I know my witty banner. You lost focus, laughed, and continued to eat breakfast. How do you sleep at night? Oh, I suppose banter is a course they teach here, he asked. Witty banter, not banter. There will come a day when witty banter may be all that stands between you and the forces of evil. How did we get on this topic? You were defending Darkspeed, saying he was the most normal, not weird boy you've ever met. I think you're in a league with him, she said, keeping one eye focused on him. Not moving the eye off him, she continued eating. Midas stifled a laugh. You have serious problems. That may be, but I know when someone thinks something is funny. Midas got it. She was like those kids that made funny faces until you laughed. The only difference is she heard you try not to laugh on the inside. Maybe that was funny to her. She kept giggling to herself as she continued eating. She was reading my thoughts just now, he thought. I bet she has the sense of humor to make up for being so ugly. Hey, she said, looking up with wide eyes. Don't eavesdrop on my thoughts. Don't call me ugly. I called you ugly to see if you were listening. I'm always listening. For crying out loud, you're only 3 feet away. Your thoughts are as loud as mine. And don't call me ugly. Someone's touchy, he said as he took a bite. Kind of like someone might be touchy about losing. He looked at her and kept chewing. She looked at him and kept eating. Neither felt very much like conversation. When Coach Hansen called all the Track 2 new arrivals to go with her, Midas breathed a sigh of relief. Man, can she be annoying, he thought. It was 0800 and Midas didn't have anything to do until lunch. The game room is calling me, he thought. Midas took a soda from the dining room and went to go curl up with the controller for 4 hours. Midas had to pull himself away from the video games. Man, those are addictive, he thought. That's why they have E out for students, or we would just sit on games or computers all day. Once out of the game room, Midas heard terrible sounds coming from outside, but all the bots seemed to continue with their normal routine, so he would too. He made his way to the dining room and asked a bot to please fix lunch for 4. Midas didn't know if other people would be in the dugout, so he just ordered for himself, Jack, and maybe 2 others. As Midas stepped out of the hotel, his eyes went wide and he stopped in his tracks. What he heard with his hearing was like a carnival of explosions and giant dishes smashing. What are you people doing? He said out loud to himself. Individual assessment for the other students must be something to see, he thought. His ears heard so many sounds all over the campus at once, it was like when his dad left the radio really loud in the car and Mom started it up. Part of his super hearing was like the defense mechanism that kept things from being amplified so loud that it hurt, but all the sound distracted him. Glad I was in playing games, he thought to himself as he started running to the pit. Once he stepped into the dugout, the noise seemed to subside. Midas knocked on the sealed steel door to the control room. Jack was the one who swung the door open. "I'm starving," she said with conviction and a face that was happy to see lunch. "Come on in. Let me introduce you to everyone. Midas, this is Bobby, and this is Lucy." Jack pointed to two techs sitting at the control panels. The one called Bobby was a tall, overweight, middle-aged man. Lucy was younger and a lot smaller. "Pleased to meet you," said Midas. "Nice to meet you too, Midas." "Jack would have told us all about you if she wasn't so busy," said Bobby. "Nonsense. Jack said you were the 11-year-old matter transmuter." "Pleased to make your acquaintance," Lucy said as she reached to shake Midas' hand. "I brought lunch for everyone." Midas was holding out a large picnic basket. "That's great! How did you know to bring extra?" Jack asked him. "I figured there had to be someone training you." "And as our trainers, we appreciate it," said Lucy as she opened the basket. Bobby stepped up and emptied the basket in an industrial manner, laying everything out and then assessing it. "We have enough here for 4 people. I brought enough for me too," said Midas. He had been looking at the control panels and all the big screen views of the pit. "Well, you're okay by me no matter what Jack said," Bobby said. "What did she say about me?" "It's a joke," Lucy said. "Well, I can get lunch here every day if you like." "That would be great. We are really pressed for time on a week like this," Lucy said. "Yeah, and if you ever need to do extra training or anything this year, we'll remember you," said Bobby. "Will you remember me this week if I want to sit in here and watch the matches?" Midas asked. Lucy and Bobby froze and looked at Jack. "I didn't say anything to him," she said. "How did you know about that?" Lucy asked him. "He has super hearing," said Jack as she looked at him. "That's right, super hearing. You can't blame me if everyone is so loud." Midas was not about to snitch on Virtuoso. She was a great source of information. "Well, if you already know, then I guess there's no harm in sitting in here," said Bobby. "Besides that, it means we get lunch every day." "Well, if you're going to be in here, we could use a hand gathering stats," Lucy said. "What's your intelligence score?" 4. "Perfect. You should be able to man the station with just a few hours training," Bobby said. They ate lunch and started training Midas on how to gather the statistics that the coaches would need. Midas thought his luck couldn't get any better. He would now learn everyone's abilities. He spent the rest of the day learning the programs and the way the data was to be gathered. On the way back home to dinner, Midas felt exhausted. "If I'm a 4 in the smarts department, why is this so hard?" "Your age, you're not fully matured yet. Think of a great doctor. He was still ignorant of medicine as a child. The school here is to help you grow your brain power," Jack said. "Did you just call me ignorant?" "Yes, I did. Did you really overhear a conversation about what happens this week?" she asked. "As far as I'm letting anyone know, that's exactly what happened. Thanks for giving me an out." "What are friends for?" "You sure I can borrow all your study materials tonight?" he asked. "I've been over that stuff so much I think I'll have an allergic reaction if I see it again. Besides, they gave me a green light on operating the equipment. Anyhow, thanks. I'll study my stuff, then I'll see if I can get to learning some of the other programs." The red shirts were back at the hotel eating dinner earlier than the other students. Midas wasn't sure he wanted to even be downstairs when Virtuoso got back from whatever she was doing. It was like she was an obnoxious cousin that knew what he was thinking. He liked having friends. He liked how open she was. He liked having someone curious like him around. And she knew everything that was going on. "Whatever, I have homework to do if I'm to know all this dugout stuff tomorrow," he thought to himself. Midas finished his food and went up to his room to study. Midas was lying on his bed reading a manual on how superhero statistics were measured. The scales that were used to describe strength, speed, senses, and other attributes were all in a spreadsheet form. He looked at a sample spreadsheet and saw what it should look like. "You mad at me?" Virtuoso thought to Midas. "I'm not mad. Rubbed the wrong way, maybe." "How did I rub you wrong?" "It's not important," he thought back. "No, it is important." Her tone was kinder than that he had ever heard. "If you're upset, then it's important, especially since I thought I was making a friend and then I'm not. So let me know what's going on."